Hey, joyful wife. What if I told you that you might be creating a lot of your own marriage pain without even realizing it? Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because of the story that you're telling yourself about what your husband's actions mean. The thoughts that are running through your head might be hurting you more than anything he's actually doing. Hear me out. Let me tell you about the day that I discovered I was hurting my own feelings. We're going to use my laundry example because it was such a pivotal moment for me. I was standing in my laundry room, absolutely furious because my husband hadn't taken the clothes out of the dryer when it buzzed. I felt like this happened all the time. And really, I just felt fed up. But this time, instead of getting angry, I decided to do something a little bit different. I sat down and I wrote out a whole page about every single thought that was going on in my mind about this situation. Some of it was, he doesn't care about me. He expects me to do everything. I'm not important to him. If he really loved me, he would help without being asked. He thinks his time is more valuable than mine, and he doesn't appreciate anything that I do. When I showed my husband this page, his response really did shock me because he's like, I had no idea you were thinking like this, and I really never even connected laundry to my love or value for you. That's when it hit me that we're not fighting about the laundry. The laundry was just there. What was creating all my pain in that moment and all my anger and all my hurt were the thoughts I was having about him not getting the laundry. I was telling myself this huge story about what his actions about not getting the laundry meant, and that was really just destroying my peace. So there's a difference between what is actually happening, those are facts, and what you tell yourself what that means, and those are stories. The fact is that the clothes stayed in the dryer after the buzzer went off. My story was, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't appreciate me, he expects me to do everything, he thinks I'm his maid. But the reality is that the same fact with a different story can create a different emotional experience. So let me give you a few more examples. Let's say husband is on phone. That's a fact. You can prove it in a court of law that he was on his phone from this time to this time. Your painful story might be, I don't matter to him. Work is more important. Memes are more important. Whatever you want to fill in the blank, social media is more important. You can also choose a more peaceful story that maybe he's probably handling something quickly so he can be present afterward, or maybe he needs a few minutes to unwind after work, or whatever story that could also be true. Here's another example. The fact that he goes to bed without saying goodnight. Your painful story that you're telling yourself, maybe he's mad at me. He doesn't want to connect. Our marriage is in trouble. But there's also another story. Maybe he's tired. This doesn't mean anything about us. Maybe it's okay for me to roll over and say goodnight. Here's another very common one. Your husband doesn't respond to a text for 3 hours. The painful story might be, he's ignoring me. I'm not priority. Something is wrong. And it doesn't even have to be anything about your marriage. It could just be your mind freaking out about something happening. But your peaceful story is, maybe he's busy and he just didn't see it. Maybe he didn't feel his phone go off in his pocket, but he's going to respond as soon as he can. All of those stories, they all have the same facts. Husband didn't say goodnight. Husband was on the phone. Husband didn't respond for 3 hours. But as you can see, each of those thoughts weigh differently and they create different emotional experiences based on the story that you choose to tell yourself. Here is a concept that really liberated me in not just my relationship with my husband, but in all my relationships in my life. Clean pain is a natural disappointment you feel when something doesn't go like you hoped it would. It's a brief, normal, and it passes very quickly. Dirty pain is where you create more suffering with the stories that you tell yourself about what happened. So let's go back to the laundry situation. Clean pain is, oh, I was hoping he'd get those. I'm a little disappointed. And the dirty pain would be, he doesn't care about me. He expects me to do everything. This proves that he just doesn't love me. That clean pain of like, yeah, I'm disappointed might last 30, 40 seconds, but that dirty pain can really ruin your whole day for multiple days and create a fight that just damages your marriage and connection even more. I would say 99.9% of the problems that I hear are mostly coming from a dirty pain. It's a pain that you're creating with your thoughts, not pain your husband is actually creating with his actions. So when you start to think about a situation and your mind just starts taking over and ruminating, I want you to ask this question. Is this thought creating peace or is it creating pain in my life? If a thought creates pain and doesn't help you solve anything, why keep thinking it? You have more power than you realize. You can choose your thoughts that create peace instead of thoughts that create pain. So here's a thought that creates pain. He never helps with anything. A thought that creates peace is he helps in ways that I might not notice. Another painful thought is he doesn't care about my feelings. Another peaceful thought is he shows care differently than I do. They're the same situation, different thoughts, different marriage experience. So this week, today, tomorrow, whenever you want to do this, I want you to start catching yourself in the act of creating these stories. Notice when you get upset and ask, what story am I telling myself about this? Write down the facts separate from the interpretations of what you think they mean. And then ask yourself, is this creating peace or is it creating pain? Is there another way to think about this? Practicing this before reacting to things that disappoint you really changes the connection that you'll have with your husband. Remember, you're not trying to never feel disappointed. You're going to. It's human nature. But you're learning to stop torturing yourself with painful stories that aren't even true. The story that you're telling yourself about your husband's action might be hurting you more than what his actual actions are. When you learn to separate the facts from the stories and choose thoughts that create peace instead of pain, it changes everything, friend. You really do have more power over your marriage experience than you think. And it starts with taking control of the stories in your head. Thanks for joining me again, and I will see you next week.